Okay, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. And the market, the futures and the pre-market, they look pretty decent in the morning. So we'll talk about that. Is this going to be a nice recovery, or is this just going to get rejected at resistance and then just keep going lower? So let's take a look at the SPY first, and we can see that this is actually going right back up to resistance again pre-market. We can see it's at 541 up there, and we can see that the 1.414 fib extension is at 548.25. So we did get to that level last week, and it looks like we do have that potential to get to that level this week as well. So perhaps there will be some green in the morning and maybe even later on, but I don't know if it's going to be too sustainable because this is just the same resistance level it got to last week, and we needed to break above in order to be convinced that this actually wants to go higher. So this is exactly kind of that mean reversion I was talking about before, how things can come back to average price where it was before, a major zone, and that's exactly where it's going to now. So we need charts to start to prove to us that they want to break free in order to continue its journey higher. So that's going to be the number to really focus on the whole week, 548.25. Otherwise, if it gets rejected, guess what? The 523 still is going to be your support down here. And the volatility is still relatively high too. So we do need to pay attention to both of those levels because both of them could be hit within the same week again if volatility remains pretty high. And we can go to the QQQ and take a look at that pre-market, and we can see that also it's going back up to a very important resistance zone as well. So we got the 1.272 fib that I'm watching. That's the 465.03. Again, it got through that level last week, wicked above, closed below. So it could still pose a little bit of a challenge here for price to try to break free. So I would not be too optimistic just yet until these candles start to prove to us that they want to go higher. So right now, both the SPY QQQ are getting pretty close to resistance. So I would be more cautious at this zone, less optimistic until we get some confirmation that it wants to break free. So 465 is that number. And down here, the 100 week still is possible to be tested again. 439.39 down there. So we could still have some volatility this week. And the IWM, this is getting back up to a resistance zone 2 right here, the 382, but we still have quite a ways to even go back up to the bottom of the cloud. We have not even touched that at all. That is 195, and all of this zone I'm expecting price to at least get back to as well before any kind of serious rejection. So I'll be watching that $200 zone the most, but in the meantime, we got to get back above this 189.33 for the IWM. And that is really the main focus for me. So that kind of means if it did want to go back down to retest the 178.24, that could be a possibility as well. But it's just more confluence that everything is approaching some kind of resistance pre-market. So whenever I see something like this pre-market, I get a little bit more defensive, a little bit more cautious because that usually could be a reversal later on. So this is something that I'll be watching every single day of the week. And yes, good morning, everybody. Jay Gonzalez, low gains. Yeah, I can take a look at SOXL for you too. So we'll go take a look at SOXL. And SOXL, this actually had a perfect hit of market symmetry. And that was kind of what I was focusing on the most the last time I talked about it. And that was the 990s right here. And it held, right? So that was great. Even on the month, this is the monthly chart too, by the way. We can see that these levels have been pretty accurate throughout time, the green level and the blue level down here. And this is technically still a higher low on the high time frame. So SOXL is looking like something that is potentially bottoming right now. And any chance price gets back below $10, I think could be the opportunity there for SOXL. And we can see even on the weekly chart, we can put on some moving averages and the Ichimoku, and you can see it's all the major resistance is still way up here. So we could possibly see some kind of mean reversion back to the 20s for SOXL. So it is closer to a support zone than it is resistance. So I think we could start to see some kind of recovery as long as the general market starts to recover as well. But if not, we could possibly go back and continue to retest the support zones below. So things are looking a little bit better, but still caution is warranted, especially because this VIX right here is still above 30, right? Every time the VIX is still above 30, there could still be a lot of volatility in the markets. So nothing too exciting just yet, right? We're just trying to hold support and break through resistance on everything. All right, let's take a look at Tesla pre-market. And Tesla, we can see that same range as last week. In fact, same range as the last couple of weeks. And the 50-week moving average is still a point of interest to pay attention to, up there at 278.20. So that's going to be something to try to break above. If it can, then I think this will get a lot more exciting. But I think the main takeaway of this chart is symmetrical support has been holding, which I've been saying to you guys the whole time. Even when price was wicking through back in early March, I'm like, this is holding support, guys. Don't be too afraid. Last week, it did touch the cloud. That is actually a good thing. And it bounced. And now we can see it's still above all these indicators here. It's above the 200 week, the 100 week, the arc, the angle, everything here. So if that trend continues, then I think price can just climb the cloud out of here like that, right? If this all can continue and if this resistance can get broken, the 274.20. So that's going to be the main takeaway, the main focus for me. If it can break above that, then I think this is going to start to trend higher and higher and higher. So 274.20 is going to be that target that I'm paying attention to. And Nvidia, yeah, Nvidia's pre-market's looking better and better too. But guess what? It's right back at the top of the cloud area, right? Well, the top of the cloud this week is right around 117, 118, right up here. So that is going to be an area of interest to try to break above. But the infamous, the illustrious 122 level needs to get broken for me. So I don't really care about anything else on this chart except for staying in the cloud. That's the first criteria. But to get a lot more bullish, it's got to get back above 122. And if it does end up doing that on weekly candle closes and back above the cloud, then I think it's going to go back towards all-time highs again. But until then, it's just stuck in a very wide range, which has been proven for the last couple of weeks. And that wide range is really the top of the cloud and the bottom of the cloud. So this is kind of your range for the week, right? Just right up here from like maybe the 118s down to the 90s again, right? That could be your range for Nvidia. So volatility still high. You got to be a little bit cautious, especially it's still right at resistance this morning. So I would not be too excited about it just yet until it starts to break above this resistance. But right now we are not. So Nvidia right back at resistance, just kind of like everything else. And GME. Yeah, GME looks like is actually going to have a good weekly candle open here. We got the 200-week moving average right there, 26.63. It looks like it's going to open this weekly candle above it. That's actually a really nice thing. So, so it's one of the few charts out there that's actually breaking above a couple of resistance levels. One of them is the 382, the 25.82, getting back above that last week. Now we're even getting back above the 200-week moving average. And the next step is going to be this baseline here at 27.38. And then you got the top of the weekly cloud up here into the 30s. So I think this is looking like it wants to trend a little bit higher, but is it ready to really explode higher? Probably not, right? We do have lots of rejections of the cloud right here back in March. We had rejections of the angle up here and almost the 50% up there back in December and January of 2024 and 23. So we do have a lot of resistance above still. So I don't think it's really ready to break free. But the goal of this chart really is going to be starting to get inside this Ichimoku cloud at some point. And when it starts to do that, then I think it'll start to trend higher and higher. But until that time, I think we can just say the range is like 26 bucks all the way up to maybe the $29 zone, right? Until it really still wants to get inside the cloud. But so far, it is not doing that. So just a little bit of a range here, but it is getting better and better now that it is trying to break some previous resistance levels and flip them back to support. So let's see this 2663 level hold on a day over day, week over week basis. And if that kind of does flip to a support, then I think this trend can go higher and eventually get inside the cloud. All right. And let's go continue here. I have an LITE. So LITE, this one actually broke through a lot of support last week. And that support, the big support that it broke through was the 100, the 382, the 5493, and also the cloud, right? Broke through the cloud. So pre-market, we can see price is still going to open up underneath the cloud, underneath that 5493, and underneath the 100. So we are going to be stuck under resistance for this chart. And it needs to prove to us that it actually wants to break back above. Otherwise, it'll probably continue to maybe get rejected and maybe even roll back and retest this 236 fib right here at 46.41. That could be the possibility for this stock. But from the bottom here, it is still higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. So this technically is a higher low that I was looking for. But essentially, it's not going to do much if it stays stuck under this 54.93. So I think that's the biggest focus for LITE. Get back above it. It can be more bullish. Stay below it. It has a risk of retesting the lows here down at the 0.236, 46.41. Yeah, I'll do Rocket Lab, RKLB. So Rocket Lab still also stuck under resistance here, and you got that previous 2021 high level right here, right there at 2134. Right, that is something that I've been watching. It still is stuck underneath it. You know what else is right there is also that baseline, which is also 2141. And then you got the arc there a little bit higher, 22s, right? Then you got the conversion line, 2290. So you got a bunch of resistance right here that it looks like it might not break above. So we are going to look at that and be a little bit cautious in that zone, because if it gets rejected again and again, then the potential to go back down to the 17s or even the 14s again does exist. So we cannot be too excited at resistance. Got to be a little bit cautious here. So 21, 22, 23, this zone really starts to has to be broken as a resistance, flip back to a support. And basically, I'll be watching that arc the most here. And if my arc gets flipped to a support on a weekly candle close, then I'll be more optimistic on this and really be like, yeah, it's going to go back towards the 28, 29, $30 zone. But until then, this is all resistance, and it has a risk of just going sideways or down until it maybe gets closer to this weekly cloud before trying to go higher. All right, we'll do TSM, Taiwan Semi. Taiwan Semi, we can see that price is actually still in the cloud. So it recovered the cloud last week, which was fabulous. So it did open way below, and it recovered multiple resistance level, maintaining support. So the important thing now this week, I think, is the bottom of the cloud, and that is going to be right here around 148.70. And the resistance has room to go. So it is in the middle of a range, so it could go either way. But your major resistance zone is still way up here in the 170s, 180s. So I think it could gravitate up there before any kind of major rejection. So TSM does look a little bit more healthy and stay in the cloud. And I think we can just maintain all of the support in the weeks to come and then possibly go towards the resistance above. But ultimately, I can't be saying this is going to go towards all-time highs yet, until all of this resistance right here gets broken, and especially this 1.272, the 184.81. So until then, this is just a mean reversion, right? It's just going back to where it was before, to the resistance, and I can't say it's going to break out until all these 180 zones, like 180, right here, the green level of the GAN, and the 1.272, the 184.81 especially needs to get broken. So it has room to go, but still just in a wide range for TSM. Let's see here. What else we got? Oh yeah, Palantir. So let's go take a look at Palantir this morning. So Palantir, what do you know, right? It closed back above the arc last week, and it is going closer and closer to the conversion line, and that conversion line is at 95.77. So that'll be the main focus for Palantir right here, going into the weekly candle close. It's trying to get above that 95.77. And if so, then the next major resistance is going to be this 1.414. And once it's above that, then I think it's going to the 150s, right? The 150s is looking like a very possible target, especially after reclaiming all of this support down here. So my main focus is staying above this arc, and that is around 84.90, maybe 84.80. So that is going to be the only thing I really care about, because if it stays above the arc, then it's going to build a base on top, and then it'll eventually break free of all of this resistance. So Palantir is looking great, but guess what? It has a couple more layers of resistance above, so don't get overly excited just yet, because prices could easily come back down to the 80s again, the mid 80s, and retest levels before trying to go higher once again. So great chart, one of the more bullish ones, but we do need to be cautious the closer it gets to this resistance above. And oh yeah, XRP. I'll do a little XRP here just to see how that weekly candle closed, and we regained a lot of support, right? XRP regained all of this support down here after spending a lot of time underneath it down here, right? It reclaimed it all, even the baseline again. So that 194 is still your weekly support down there, and your conversion line up here, 232, is going to be your resistance. Stuck in a range. Not really ready to break out yet until it gets back on top of all of these indicators, which it's only got one to go. So until then, we got to just be a little bit cautious the closer it gets to the 230s, because it could easily come back down to the $2 range and retest it, as we've seen in the weeks before. So great looking chart, but still has some resistance left before it can break out. And let's see, Metro Holding. Metro. Is that a crypto? I don't know. I'm not sure which Metro you mean, David. So, oh, MSTR, you mean? Okay, I got you. MSTR. MSTR, we can see that, yeah, price has potential to get to this 1.618 again, but it's still stuck in the same range that it has been in the past couple of weeks. And the big takeaway for this one is the 340 right here, this fib, and that is the 1.414. So 340 is going to be your higher time frame resistance. Your support is going to be down in the 280s down here for the week, and there is still a lot of volatility, so it could go either way. But I think the trend now might want to be going closer and closer to resistance. So we're going to watch that 340 level. And once it breaks back and flips back to a support, then I think it's going to be good to go. Like good to go towards at least the baseline, 360s, and then maybe even the 4 and 500s again. So MSTR does look promising, as long as Bitcoin does look promising. And I can take a look at Bitcoin too. And we saw that it closed back above that 1.272 yesterday. And because of that, we had continuation to the upside. And now we can even get back to the 87s before any kind of major resistance up there. So it's not clear sailing just yet, but reclaiming this 83,558 is good. So if Bitcoin can trend higher, then that kind of means MicroStrategy can also trend higher until maybe the 340 to decide if it can break out or not. Let's see here. Can I chart VT? Yeah, let's take a look at VT. Vanguard Total World Stock Index. So this is looking like it might actually want to break above that baseline soon. But regardless, we still have the top of the cloud for this weekly chart, which is around 115. So that's going to be your next resistance zone. While the support could even be down here at the 100 still, the 108.26. So this also has a possibility to stay in a wide range for the week, simply because the VIX is still kind of high. So promising chart now that it's back inside of the cloud, back above the 100, but not sure if it's really ready to break out just yet. So let's just watch the top of the cloud here around 115 in order to get a little bit more optimistic. And XLM, yeah, XLM actually had a decent close too. It finally closed back above that 50% fib, the 0.237, after closing below it the week before. And yeah, so stay above that 23.7, and then we got some room to go to the conversion line here, which is around 0.287. And more importantly, I want to see it back above this 618 here, the 0.3158. And once it's back above that, then I think XLM can start to trend higher. So looks better and better. A lot of crypto looks better and better, to be honest. So XLM looks like it can journey on towards the resistance above. But just remember that number, 0.315. That's the necessary number to get a lot more optimistic for XLM. And EOS. Yeah, so EOS, we can see that price did almost, I was expecting it to hit that 50-week moving average, but it got a little bit short. It fell a little bit short, did not touch it, but now we closed the week back above the 200-week, and even looks like we're going towards this all-important 50% level. That is the 0.5 fib 442. This was kind of the breakdown level, right? You can see it was holding as support here, and then it broke down, flipped it back to a resistance, and went lower. So that 442, in my opinion, is kind of crucial to maintain as a support. So flip that back to a support, then EOS gets a lot more bullish, right? But in the meantime, look where it is pre-market. It is right around the baseline, the conversion line, that 442. That's a lot of resistance for EOS, so it kind of has to prove to us that it wants to break out in order to get more bullish. But until then, be a little bit cautious here, because it could get rejected, come back down, maybe retest levels a little bit lower first. But that's what I got my eye on, 442. Get back above that, then this goes back towards the $5 zone and above. So has potential here, but it's got to prove it to us right now. All right, I'll do two more. I'll do TNA and coin, then I'm gonna run away. So we'll do TNA. So TNA is actually reclaiming this double bottom here, right? This is kind of an important zone that I'm looking at right there, and it did close the last week back above it, which is fantastic. Then this is kind of why you're seeing a continuation higher. So there we go. We can see that price has the potential to go all the way back up to this major resistance up here in the 30s, right? It does have that potential as long as it maintains this 2152, right? So that's your support right down here. 2158, I should say, the previous low. That's your support, and your resistance is going to be all the way up here for the week around in the 30s, maybe 31, 32 in that zone. So I do see that potential, but we got to start breaking resistance on the IWM. We got to start breaking resistance on the SPY, the QQQ, in order to get there. So it does look optimistic, but they do have to start breaking those levels sooner or later in order for it to get that momentum. But this is a major resistance zone up here, this $32 zone, simply because it was a big previous support and it was the breakdown zone. So going back there could be a magnet for price, but it could be very difficult to break through of that 31.98. So that's going to be the target to break above to get more optimistic. But I think in the meantime, it does have a lot of room to get there. And I think that could end up being the target and the magnet for the price. And the last thing I'll do is Coinbase. So Coinbase Global, we can see it's going to open up right basically on the arc right here, right on the arc, and possibly above the 100 and back inside the cloud. So if it opens on the arc here, back inside the cloud, back above that, then you know what? That's kind of regaining a lot of support. And if it does regain all of this support, then it could be a magnet to go towards the 200s again. And the 0.702, the 71, that fib around $2 or 200, 201 is going to be the target to break to get a lot more optimistic, because not only is it breaking above that fib, it would also be breaking above the cloud again as well. And that's going to be right around 196. So that could be our range for the week, maybe from the 180s, maybe a little bit lower, high 170s, all the way up towards the $200 zone. This could be your range for the week. But it'd be nice if Bitcoin could start to break out more, and the altcoins, then this could possibly have another bullish engulfing candle and close back above all these levels. But I'm liking how this is opening so far pre-market. And if it does open up strong like this, then the continuation higher could be there into the 190s and the low 200s. So I think that's it for me today. I'll be doing my private live stream at 9:15 Eastern time for my tier 4 people. You can join there if you guys have more questions. But honestly, things are looking like they are improving, but they are not improving to the point that they're going to break resistance. Like IWM approaching resistance, QQQ approaching resistance, SPY approaching resistance pre-market. So just look at those levels. Let's see if they can break. If not, I would be very cautious there, because they could easily roll over and retest lows just to trap people once again. So like I always say, more optimistic at support, more cautious at resistance. And until then, I'll see you guys later.